Okay. The discourse tonight is going to be Sutta number 113, the Sappurisa Sutta, the true man. Now you've heard in other discourses when they talk about the true man, and you have to believe him or not believe him, and have faith in him or not have faith in him. This is what a true man is. Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One was living at Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathan Pendika's park. There he addressed the monks thus, "Monks, venerable sir," they replied, the Blessed One said this, "Monks, I shall teach you the character of a true man and the character of an untrue man. Listen and attend closely to what I shall say." "Yes, venerable sir," the monks replied, the Blessed One said this, "Monks, what is the character of an untrue man? Here an untrue man who has gone forth from an aristocratic family considers thus, I have gone forth from an aristocratic family, but these other monks have not gone forth from an aristocratic family. So he lauds himself and disparages others because of his aristocratic family. This is the character of an untrue man. But a true man considers thus, it is not because of one's aristocratic family that states of greed, hatred, or delusion are destroyed. Even though someone may not have gone forth from the aristocratic family, yet if he has entered upon the way that accords with Dhamma, entered upon the proper way, and conducts himself according to the Dhamma, he should be honored for that. He should be praised for that. So putting the practice of the way first, he neither lauds himself nor disparages others because of his aristocratic family. This is the character of a true man. Moreover, an untrue man who has gone forth from a great family, from a wealthy family, from an influential family, considers thus, I have gone forth from one of these kinds of family, but these other monks have not gone forth from these kinds of family. So he lauds himself and disparages others because of his influential family. This too is a character of an untrue man. But a true man considers thus, it is not because of one's influential family that states of greed, hatred, or delusion are destroyed. What's greed, hate, and delusion?
Those are, what are they? Unwholesome states?
Yeah.
The first three things. Craving.
Even though someone may not have gone forth from an influential family, yet if he has entered upon that way, the way that accords with the Dhamma, entered upon the proper way, and conducts himself according to the Dhamma, he should be honored for that. He should be praised for that. So putting the practice of the way first, he neither lauds himself nor disparages others because of his influential family. This too is the character of a true man. So the whole thing comes down to, and this does happen in Asia, somebody comes from a wealthy family or an influential family and they just kind of shine other monks on. They just kind of, yeah, you're not worth talking to. That kind of attitude. One thing that's real amazing is the more intelligent they are, the less they have the tendency to do that. Like, they give tests for Pali and the Vinaya rules and all of that sort of thing. And the ones that turn out to be number one in the country are quite often the most humble. It's really kind of an amazing thing when you get right down to it. Moreover, an untrue man who is well known and famous considers thus: I am well known and famous, but these other monks are unknown and of no account. So he lauds himself and disparages others because of his renown. This too is the character of an untrue man. But a true man considers thus: it is not because of one's renown that greed, hate, or delusion are destroyed. Even though someone may not be well known and famous, yet, if he has entered upon the way that accords with the Dhamma, entered upon the proper way and conducts himself according to the Dhamma, he should be honored for that. He should be praised for that. So, putting the practice of the way first, he neither lauds himself nor disparages others because of his renown. This too is the character of a true man. When I got invited to go to the big temple in Kuala Lumpur, I was introduced to 3,000 people. And I was introduced as a famous monk. And Keshri Dhammananda is talking about a famous monk, and I'm looking to see which monks he was talking about. I had no idea. And I've never considered myself famous. I don't care about that sort of thing. Moreover, an untrue man who gains robes, alms, food, resting place, and requisites of medicine considers thus: I gain robes, alms, food, resting place, and requisites of medicine, but these other monks do not gain these things. So he lauds himself and disparages others because of that gain. Monks are incredibly generous. They have a lot of things given to them, and as a result, they practice giving a lot of things away. It's one of the hardest lessons to learn when you become a monk, because people will give you things that you don't really need or want, but you have to accept it. So what do you do with that afterwards? On Katina ceremony, they give robes to monks. And at Kuala Lumpur, just one Katina ceremony, I got 50 robes. Along with all the other stuff. What am I going to do with all this stuff? That's burdensome. So what I finally decided was I was accepting it as a member of the Sangha. It's not mine personally. And I talked with Keshri Dhammananda and I said, are there monks that are poor that need robes that you know of? He said, yes. And I generally ship all the robes to Sri Lanka. So the monks there have robes so that they can use them. I said, please add this stuff too. But there were some things, like there was vitamins. I might take a bottle of vitamins, but I got 25 of them. And little things, I might take a little bit. But by and large, everything that I got, I was there for 3 katinas. And I was there for 2 katinas. So I had 100 robes, and I had all this other material stuff, and I had it distributed. And there's monks, like in Thailand, they go from one katina to the next katina to the next katina, so they can accumulate stuff. Well, I was a traveling monk. I accumulated books. I always had 100 kilos or 50 kilos of books. But I certainly didn't want anything else. And I was getting ready to go to another country. And a doctor came to check and make sure that I was healthy. And the doctor said, how many robes are you going to take with you? I said, 3. Well, I couldn't travel that light. He said, you don't have to carry it. Yeah. I do. But a man considers thus, it is not because of gain that the states of greed, hate, or delusion are destroyed, even though someone has no gain. Yet he has entered upon the way that accords with the Dhamma, entered upon the proper way, and conducts himself according to Dhamma. He should be honored for that. He should be praised for that. So putting the practice of the way first, he neither lauds himself nor disparages others because of gain. This too is the character of a true man. An untrue man who is learned, who is expert in the discipline, who is a preacher of the Dhamma, who is a forest dweller. That means they live exclusively in the forest. The only time they come out is for alms round. Who is a refuge rag wearer. During the time of the Buddha, the cloth was dear. So the monks, what they did was they went to the charnel grounds, because they always covered the body up with white cloth when they brought it there, and then they wait for the family members to come. So there's pieces of cloth around here and there. And they would take those, and then they would clean them very well, and then they would dye them and sew them together to make their robe. That's why it's called a patchwork robe. These days we don't have that problem. We got lots of robes that are already made up. An alms food eater. An alms food eater only eats what's been offered into his bowl. And this is one of these last few little things about being the forest dweller and refuge rag wearer and alms food eater and the other ones. These are called the Dutangas. These are the special extra discipline that you can do if you want. And there's always advantages to doing that. A tree root dweller, that means that he only stays at the roots of a tree. He doesn't sleep in a hut. A charnel ground dweller. A charnel ground dweller is somebody who's doing the meditation on the dissolution of the body. When you spend a night in a charnel ground or a graveyard, you have a tendency to have dreams of the people that have died before. And they can be real interesting dreams. And you will remember them when you wake up. A continual sitter. What they're talking about here is that you have 4 postures. You sit, you stand, you walk, you lay down. What they're talking about continual sitter is somebody that uses 3 postures. There's 3 levels of each one of these Dhutanga practices. The first level is by far the hardest, which means that you never lay down. And you sit in meditation and sleep, or you sit like you're asleep, like you're in meditation and sleep. Very difficult practice. You wind up sleeping a half an hour, 40 minutes at the most, and then you're waking up because you slumped a little bit, you're really uncomfortable. Then you get up and walk, and if you're still sleepy, then you come back and do that again. That's the hardest degree. The next degree is leaning against a wall. I did that for about 6 months just to see what it was like. It was pretty interesting. And the next degree is sitting in a chair. But never lying down is somewhat difficult. And after you do it for a while, you have so much physical energy, it's unbelievable. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Anyway, and any bed user, so monks travel from one place to another. Quite often there are no cooties that they can use, so they wind up going into the meditation hall, sleeping on the floor. I've done that. I have no idea how many times. And I actually got in the habit of, I'm not real comfortable sleeping on a bed. I want to sleep on the floor. I'm comfortable on the floor. A one-session eater. I'm a one-session eater. I just eat 1 time a day. When he considers thus, I'm a one-session eater, but these other monks are not one-session eaters. I went to a monastery where they were teaching monks how to memorize the suttas, commentaries, things like that. And they were young monks. Everybody got up at 5 o'clock. You went out for alms round. You come back about 5:30, 5:45. You give them all of the food. And then they would prepare a meal at about 6:15. And then they had a meal about 8:30. And then they had a meal at 11 o'clock. But doing that much memorization is incredibly it takes its toll on your body if you don't eat enough. There was a monk at Mahasi Center that he was amazing. He was memorizing Abhidhamma. He would come in and he had a bowl that was bigger than mine. He would fill it to the top with rice, and he'd put a little bit of curry on it. And he would eat that bowl of rice before I, moving very slowly, had my first bite of food. I mean, it was like 3 minutes, and he was done. He'd get up and walk out. And the monks that do that, they wind up with bad digestion because they're not chewing their food at all. They're just swallowing. And I couldn't imagine how anybody can eat that fast. But he did. I am a one-session eater, but these other monks are not one-session eaters, so he lauds himself and disparages others because of being a one-person eater. And it's amazing. Like, I go to Chicago and go to the Thai temple, and I sit down with them at breakfast. All I want is a cup of coffee, and they're continually trying to push food at me. I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry. I don't want any food. But that's the style of being with Asians, because food to them is real important.
Yeah.
And when they miss a meal, they suffer greatly. But a man considers thus: it is not because of being a one-session eater that states of greed, hatred, or delusion are destroyed. Even though someone may not be a one-session eater, yet if he has entered upon the way in accordance with that Dhamma, and entered upon the proper way and conducts himself according to Dhamma, he should be honored for that. He should be praised for that. So putting the practice of the way first, he neither lauds himself nor disparages others because of his being a one-session eater. This is a character of a true man. Now, over here, when it says, who is an expert in discipline in the Vinaya, there are monasteries where they really are strict with their Vinaya. And the slightest little thing, they get criticized for making that mistake. That's part of the training. But then when somebody comes from outside, they see them do something that they shouldn't. They won't say anything about it. Now that's the proper way to practice. When you're with somebody and they're trying to learn all of the different of the 6 million rules, which there are. I mean, there's a lot of rules that are not in the 227 rules. You have to have your fingernails trimmed so that you look like this and you don't see your fingernails. But I always grow my little fingernail a little bit longer for digging around and cleaning out ears and that sort of thing, and I get criticized for it. Yeah, you're breaking the rules, sir. And I got ready to leave this one place, and I took my bowl, because I didn't want to carry it on my shoulder. I took my bowl and put it in the suitcase. They criticized me for that. You always if you're leaving a place, your bowl is supposed to be on your left side. And when you go out for alms food, it's always supposed to be on your right side. There's a little tiny things that...
It's etiquette, almost.
Yeah, it's a kind of etiquette, but it's like, give me a break.
You have to. I think you have to be careful not to start worshiping the rules.
That is true.
Holy and replace the Buddha with the book.
And the monks that do that, they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and discuss one tiny little rule for 2 hours before they go out. So it gives you some of the idea of...
Only so much time in a day.
Yeah. Well, but being a monk, you have the time. Okay, moreover, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, an untrue man enters upon and abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by thinking and examining thought with joy and happiness born of seclusion. He considers thus, I have gained the attainment of the first jhana, but those other monks have not yet gained the attainment of the first jhana. So he lauds himself and disparages others because of his attainment of the first jhana. This too is the character of an untrue man. But a true man considers thus, non-identification even with the attainment of the first jhana has been declared by the Blessed One. For in whatever way they conceive, the fact is ever other than that. So putting non-identification first, he neither lauds himself nor disparages others because of his attainment of the first jhana. This too is the character of a true man. It doesn't say that you don't talk about it. It says that you don't look down on other people because they haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, I think one part of that is, and I hear people do it, and it's not right to me. That if somebody's kind of an advanced meditator, they'll say, "Oh, I remember when I was in the 6th jhana, and it was like this," and they're talking to some beginner, and it's just not ever appropriate to talk about that kind of stuff.
No, but when you run across somebody that's that has that experience,
right,
then it is appropriate to talk about it. And one of the things that the major rules that monks can break is by saying that they're in a jhana without experiencing that jhana.
That's bad.
But there is a thing about that. They can overestimate where they are. You saw that this summer with...
So they think they're there.
Yeah.
And in good faith they say it, but then they're wrong.
Right. They're wrong.
So best.
And somebody that understands that will say, you're overestimating your practice. You're not experiencing what you think you're experiencing. And the reason that they aren't experiencing what they think they're experiencing is they might have had that experience one time. But then they started letting go of the practice and doing other things. So they don't continue on with the practice. With the stilling of thinking and examining thought, an untrue man enters upon and abides in the second jhana. Or, with the fading away of joy, he enters upon and abides in the third jhana. or with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, he enters upon and abides in the fourth jhana. Moreover, with the complete surmounting of gross perceptions of form, with the disappearance of gross perceptions disappearance. That's
Sounds like absorption.
yeah, I talked to Bhikkhu Bodhi about this, and I said, what you have down here is misleading. So he spouted off the Pali to me, and I said, I don't care what the Pali said. This is misleading. It's not the complete disappearance. It's the
You have to say complete disappearance unless contact is made,
right.
and leave it at that.
Yeah. But it's not just any kind of perception, it's the gross perception. So there's a disappearance of the gross perception of sensory impact. Yeah, I can go along with that. But there's still the subtle perception of the sensory impact that's available if there is contact. And this last sentence, I completely, quite often, I don't even say it. It says, with the disappearance of perceptions, with the non-attention to perceptions of diversity.
Yeah. I never knew what it meant, but it sure sounded cool.
Well, that says that if there's any change, you don't have any attention, you don't know that it's changing. Well, that's not right. Sorry, but it's just not right. Aware that space is infinite, an untrue man enters upon and abides in the base of infinite space, and then he lauds himself because he thinks he's hot stuff. Moreover, by completely surmounting the base of infinite space, aware that there is consciousness. And so he experiences infinite consciousness, and this is a real interesting state where you see change. It's undeniable, it's unavoidable, because you're seeing the arising and passing away of individual consciousnesses. You're seeing that there is no, oh, this thought is a continuous thought, or this stream of thoughts is a continuous thing, or this sight is I'm continually seeing. No, you're not. You're seeing and arising and passing away very, very quickly, and it looks like it's a movie. But when your mind gets to this state, it's like your awareness becomes so sharp that you see the arising and passing away of each individual consciousness. And it's at all of the sense doors, including mind. So you see that, and it gets tiresome, seeing that everything is in a state of change. And you see really, really well that there is no controller. You can't control this. You can't make it stop. When a sound hits the ear, you're gonna see all of those individual consciousnesses arise and pass away. And you can't do anything about not hearing something. So the whole thing is, as you go deeper into your practice, you start to see the anicca, dukkha, anatta while you're in the practice. And you start thinking you're pretty good. A lot of people are, by that time, they're thinking that yeah, I'm starting to progress now. I am seeing this. It's real interesting. But the way I teach, I try to impress on the students that the jhanas are just levels of understanding. It's nothing to puff your chest up and say, I'm hot stuff because I can do this. And as you start really understanding, you start losing the want to brag. So, when people practice absorption concentration, they have a tendency to brag about the states that they're in.
Did that. Where's that? I did that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So did I. So did he.
We all did. Yeah. All did.
Anisa, Dukkha, and Anatta are going to be different than what was experienced during Vipassana?
Well, change is the same, but you're going to see it on a finer level. And you see change all the time. See, what the people that practice Vipassana do is they emphasize anicca, dukkha, anatta. Like that's the end result. That's really where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not.
Yeah.
Because you see anicca, dukkha, anatta when you're able to see the links of dependent origination. You're seeing the Four Noble Truths and anicca, dukkha, anatta in every link.
Mm-hmm. That's bigger understanding.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I went to Spirit Rock to talk with somebody there. I went to see, I wanted to show Kama what it was like there. And this guy came up and he started talking to me and he said he'd practiced, he was a monk and he came back and disrobed. Now he was a teacher there at Spirit Rock. And he had practiced with the Pawak monk, who has memorized the entire Visuddhimagga, and he teaches exactly like it says in the Visuddhimagga. So as we were talking along, I kept on talking about dependent origination. And he was starting to come around. And Kama was talking to a female teacher there. We were sitting in the same room. At exactly the same time, we both said, you can see one or all of the characteristics of existence without ever seeing dependent origination. But when you see dependent origination and the links in it, you will always see the three characteristics of existence. And that was kind of odd, because it was like I was hearing an echo of what I was saying. But after I got done talking with him for a little while, he had thought that he had become a Sotapanna, according to what the Pawak monk was teaching. And I asked him very point blank about being able to see the links of dependent origination, and he wasn't able to see those. He wasn't able to see that. And I told him that the reason he wasn't able to see it was his mind was too one-pointed. It was too focused on just one thing. And if he wanted to be able to see the length of dependent origination, he had to add one thing to his meditation, and that was the relax step. That changes the entire meditation. Finally, we're getting ready to leave, and he said, you know, I think I ought to come practice with you. And I said, fine, here's my card. You want to come practice? You can. Well, why don't you try to teach here? Too many people don't like me there because of reading what the Buddha said. That makes me an outlaw there. Because they're used to winging it and coming up with all kinds of psychological stuff and stuff that really... We stopped in the meditation hall and they were having a retreat. And this lady started doing a guided retreat in loving kindness. And a woman got up and ran out of the meditation hall and went into the cloakroom and started bawling her eyes out.
Huh?
Yeah. I couldn't understand it. What did you just go through? You have to cry like that? Interesting. Moreover, by completely surmounting the base of infinite consciousness, aware that there is nothing, an untrue man enters upon it and abides in the base of nothingness and lauds himself and thinks he's hot stuff. And I met a monk that had experienced that with absorption concentration, great concentration. But it was kind of okay, so what? You're talking about this, you can go this deep, and what did you learn?
Yeah.
See, the realm of nothingness is probably one of the most interesting states of meditation that you can experience. Because the vibration of your mind is very little. There's very little movement. And there's all kinds of interesting things that happen while you're in that state. And the amount of attention you use on your object of meditation is, you have to adjust. You adjust too much one way, then you slip off one way or the other. You're either going to have restlessness or dullness. So what this state is all about is learning how to stay with your object of meditation with the proper amount of attention.
So the same things I get to deal with now, I'll be dealing with still later.
Oh yeah, but this gets to be real fine.
Yeah.
And there's just little tiny tweaks of energy, just paying a little bit more attention to staying with your object of meditation. So it gets to be real interesting, and there's all kinds of other neat stuff that you see that you have to talk to me about. That's why you need to come every day. You need to talk to me.
Okay.
I mean, you can talk to Kema, you can talk to these other people about what the meditation is. But if you want to progress, you come and talk to me. Because I'm their teacher.
Is there any particular time that would be good for you to see him?
Well, around 10.
10.
Moreover, by completely surmounting the base of nothingness. An untrue man enters upon and abides in the base of neither perception nor non-perception. He considers thus, I have gained the attainment of the base of neither perception nor non-perception, but the other monks have not gained that attainment. So he lauds himself and disparages others because of his attainment in that base of neither perception nor non-perception. This true is a character of an untrue man. But a true man considers thus non-identification even with the attainment of the base of neither perception nor non-perception has been declared by the Blessed One. For in whatever way they conceive, the fact is ever other than that. What does that say? I can describe very eloquently and precisely what the realm of neither perception or non-perception is. And it's not even close to the actual experience. So the words that I use, the concepts that I use, they can help point you in the right direction. But it's not close to the actual experience. That's why it's so important that you go through all of these different stages so that you can see them and know them without, Jerry and Rose are back, without any question, because you got it. And the thing with intellectual knowledge is it is incredibly slow. Okay, intellectual knowledge, just you got to think up your concepts, you got to think up your words. But when you're experiencing something directly, there's no faith that you have to have, because you're seeing it for yourself. You know that this is real. So it's a real interesting phenomena that what is a true man? A true man is somebody that goes through all these experiences without looking down on other people.
Without conceit.
Without conceit. That's what we have to teach Chris. So, the more you can practice smiling, practice your 6 hours, practice going deeper into your meditation, the wiser you become. Because you're starting to see how when feeling arises, there's craving, there's thoughts, there's habitual tendency, there's birth, there's suffering. And you start seeing that in all different aspects of your life. So then you can start letting it go. That's what the whole point of the meditation is about. And the reason that I insist that you have the direct experience is because I can't convince you to attain Nibbana any other way. You have to go through all of this, let go of your own attachments, because everybody's attached in a little different way. Mine works in exactly the same way, but everybody, because of their experience, they get caught in one way or another. Moreover, by completely surmounting the base of neither perception nor non-perception, a true man enters upon the and abides in the cessation of perception, feeling, and consciousness. and his taints are destroyed by his seeing with wisdom. This monk does not conceive anything. He does not conceive in regard to anything. He does not conceive in any way at all. Why? Because he's become an arahat. He doesn't have wandering thoughts anymore. That is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So when I was giving talks in Indonesia, I was telling people that if you come and practice a week or 2 weeks with me, you'll get at least to the 4th jhana. Boy, that really woke them up. Because they were practicing one-pointed concentration. Almost everybody does. This is one of the reasons that reading from the suttas is so important. So you know who the real teacher is. It's not the guy that's reading it. The real teacher is the Buddha. And the more you can follow his advice, the faster your progress becomes. Share Samaritan. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Saha.